All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar today. We'll be looking at using the frame generator to create frames in Inventor 2022. If my voice sounds a little bit strange, I'm recovering at the moment, so I sound about 1 or 2 octaves lower than I normally sound. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Daniel Payton. I'm an application engineer at Greco. I'm located in the Southampton office, and I am in the manufacturing team there. If you are looking to contact me in any way, my email address and my LinkedIn are listed below there. And you should see this document is in the handouts section of the GoTo webinar. So if you are looking for this handout, it is in the handouts section. Okay, a bit about my background. Before I started at Greco, I had about 9 years of industry experience as a design engineer. I worked in the automotive industry, designing buses, so we used a lot of tubular steel, sheet metal, glass, some plastics, fiberglass. There were a range of products that we worked with there. And then prior to working at in the automotive industry, I worked in the entrance control industry, where we were designing things like those spikes that come out of the ground and things to stop vehicles from going to pedestrian areas, as well as turnstiles and speed gates and those kinds of things that you'd see at airports and at banks and things like that. All right, some key facts about Greco. So Greco is over 30 years old. They are headquartered in France and currently operate in over 11 countries worldwide through over 48 offices. So there's a global reach with Greco. We are a healthy, profitable and growing company. Greco continues to grow year on year. And as we grow, we tend to acquire other companies so we can increase our product offering and also increase the services that we can provide to all of our customers. We currently have over 550 staff members globally. 100 of those are located in R&D center where they work to create class-leading BIM solutions. So if you aren't aware of what BIM is, it's the building information modeling, and that's quite a hot topic at the moment. So Greco are working on BIM solutions. So Greco don't only resell Autodesk software, but they also create their own software. And one of those things will be the BIM solutions that we create. We also have 200 industry consultants that are focused on making sure that our customers are happy, making sure that we can provide the outcomes that the customers expect. And we also have local project and product managers. So we really want to make sure that we support our customers in the best way possible. And of course, that leads us into our customer first mantra, which is, really what we believe that we should be providing to our customers. We want to make sure our customers are happy and satisfied, no matter what the services that we provide to them. So if we have a look at the customer support, we can see that we receive about a 98% excellent or good rating of feedback from our customers, and that's from over 50,000 support cases logged per year. We also receive excellent feedback on the training that we provide to our customers, and that's over 3,500 training courses that we deliver per year. So we really want to make sure our customers are always happy and satisfied. All right, so the Greco story. Why Greco? Well, Greco want to be focused on how they provide support to you and how they provide a service to you. The way that they do this is they break a project up into 4 different categories, and each of these categories has its own specific software assigned to it. So if we look at Greco Create, you can design and create your designs using the Autodesk products, which can be enhanced with Greco Power Packs. Now, if you aren't aware of Greco Power Packs, please contact the salesperson. They'll be able to provide more information to you. But basically, the Greco Power Pack takes the standard software that you have from Autodesk, and it adds some enhancements to it. So you'll normally get an extra icon in the ribbon, and that provides extra tools that Autodesk might have not provided to you. So if you are interested in having some extra functionality, have a chat to one of the Greco salespeople, and they'll be able to give you more information about these Greco Power Packs. We then move on to the Simulate area where you'll be able to simulate your designs for use in the real world using market-leading Greco technologies. From them, we'll take our products through into the finished fabricated product as well as site delivery. And with all of that data that you generate in those previous steps, you need a good management solution. And that is where Greco Manage comes in. All right. Now we have this Greco content center that what we call our content center. This is where we place all of our webinars that we do and some tutorials and software tips. And you'll be able to find this on our website. The link is there under the Greco Content Center heading over there. So if you are looking for it, again, you can access this via the handouts. But have a look on our website. We provide loads of interesting tips and tricks, as well as other videos like this webinar. They're all free to access, and we are continually adding more videos each time. So if there isn't anything that you want to see yet, perhaps in a few weeks, you'll see more videos that might be of interest to you. So this webinar is recorded. Please allow about 2 weeks for it to be added to the website. So if you don't see it immediately, please give it about 2 weeks and it should be there. If you are looking for any of the MFG webinars, you'll find them under the MFG webinars, tips and tutorials. Okay, but we also have a good collection of AEC and advanced steel webinars. All right, so in this webinar today, we're going to have a look at the frame generator. Now, if you haven't used frame generator in Inventor before, it's quite a good tool to use. It's obviously good at making frames, as the name implies, but it's the way that it makes those frames, because it's a lot easier than having to model each of these frame members individually and then bringing them into an assembly and then trying to constrain everything together, only to find that you now need to miter the ends together, so you're having to add additional cuts in, and then you can't get the weld gaps right, and perhaps you need to increase the length of one frame member and then all the frame members move. And I'm sure you've had nightmares like that where you've put an assembly together and then it all sort of falls apart when you make one or two small changes. So the frame generator is a great way to get around that. It's going to be a lot more robust and you're not going to need to apply any of those constraints in the first place. Okay, so a frame generator is an assembly tool. We'll see that when we go through it. It basically just needs us to have a sketch or a solid model to work from. We use that as our skeleton, so we can build a frame very quickly around a sketch or around a solid model. We can then use the frame generator tool to create a particular section, so we can actually choose one of the predefined structural sections, or we can create our own structural section and publish it in. Once we've done that, we simply just have to click on the geometry that we want to place the section on, and it will drop the section in, and it will create the length according to the length of the line or according to the length of the edge of the model. We can then easily manipulate the lengths of the frames without having to worry about any constraints. And thanks to the set of tools, it's not only going to be the length that we can control, but we can also add in other end treatments like notching and mitering as well. And then we can also add in end caps very easily using the end cap tool. Okay, so that's the great thing about frame generator. It's going to let you generate frames, and there I've put a picture of a frame that was created in frame generator, but there isn't really any limit to the kinds of frames that you can create. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. With Inventor 2022 open, the process of using the frame generator requires us, as I said, to have a sketch or a part to use. So let's go and create just a basic sketch to create a basic frame. So we can start off with a new part. Okay, so for this, I'm only going to create some sketches. So I'm just going to create a basic frame. And I'm just creating additional work planes for this frame. So I'm just using 2D sketches here. I find 2D sketches a lot easier to work with than 3D sketches when it comes to um, altering sizes. There's nothing wrong with using 3D sketches, but what you might find is that it becomes a little bit difficult to manipulate at a later stage. And then I'm just projecting the geometry from the opposite side. Okay, so that can be the start of my frame. Now again, there isn't really a limit to the kinds of frames that you can create here. If you want to make this a lot more complex, you can, and you can just continue building more and more sketches. If you want to combine some 2D sketches as well as 3D sketches to make your designs a bit more complex, you can, especially if you need to add any sort of diagonals from one corner here to the opposite corner there. You can very easily take a 3D sketch and just basically create a line between those 2 points. Okay, so once we have this, this is enough for us to create our frame. So we're going to save this part, and you can give this any sort of name that is logical to you. I'm going to call it skeleton because this is going to be my skeleton frame. And then what I do is I start a new assembly. I'm then going to place that part into the frame assembly, or sorry, into the normal assembly here. So I'm going to place that skeleton in there. There we are. And I'll save this. Okay. So that's going to form my frame. Now to access the frame generator, we'll go to the design tab at the top here. And again, the frame generator only works inside of assemblies, so you won't be able to do it in the part environment. And then to use the frame generator, we just click on Insert Frame over there. And now we have the frame generator tool popping up. Now we can go and choose the frame member that we want to work with. So you can see here we've got the category, and we have a few different categories to choose from: angles, channels, I-beams, so on. I'm going to work with a square or rectangular tube. We can then choose the standard that we want to work with. So there's quite a few standards that we can choose from. I'll just choose ISO. Under family, this is where we can define the type of square or rectangular section that we want to work with. We've got cold formed, we've got hot finished, and it will tell you if it's rectangular or square. So let's say we want to go for a square cold formed section. We can then choose the size that's available, and we'll only see sizes that are available to that particular standard, the ISO standard. So let's say we want to go for something like 40 by 40 by 3. We can choose what material we're making it from. Okay. And if we want to change the appearance of the frames, we can as well over here, but we'll just leave it as the material appearance. Now to place these frame members, you just simply click on the lines that you want to apply the frame members to. So I can click on that line over there, and you'll see it drops the frame member in. I'm not having to extrude anything, I'm not having to draw anything, I'm not having to constrain. All I do is drop that frame member on the line, and then we get this little canvas placement tool over here that allows us to choose where we place our section relative to the line. So in this case, it's dropping it in the center of that section, but I want to choose the top corner instead. So I'm going to just click on the top corner there, and that repositions the section on the top corner. Now I can continue applying additional frame members, and you'll see that Inventor should be intelligent enough to actually orientate that frame member correctly to that line. Now it won't always orientate it perfectly, but in most cases it does a pretty decent job. You can see that it's keeping that on the corner edge. Okay, so let's say I apply it, and in fact maybe I want to apply it to a few sections at the same time. What I can do is I can also do a window select, and that will select multiple items, as you can see there, and I can drop it in on the bottom as well. All right. Okay, now for some reason it's rotated that one there. I'm not quite sure why it did that. Okay, but that's not a problem because we can change that afterwards. I'll leave these bottom ones off. Okay, I can always go back and apply those afterwards. So we've got the little apply button over here at the bottom, and it will then come up with a framing dialog, sorry, a naming dialog. If you want to change the name of your frame, you can, but we'll leave everything standard. Just click OK. We can then rename the individual members if we want to. So if you want to give individual part numbers to each of your frame members, you can from here. It does allow you to override the display name as well as the file name. You can see there's all your part numbers. It gives you a generic sequential number that's randomly generated. These are all unique numbers. So if you do want to overwrite that number, you can just go and type in a new number. Click OK. There we are. And I can go and place those members on the bottom. And you can see that they've all gone the wrong way around. So if I do want to rotate that, I can go over to the little arrow over here. You'll see we've got a rotation arrow over here that allows us to rotate the sections. I can grab it and drag it, and that will allow me to rotate that. I can also change the rotation over here in the actual dialog itself. And if you do want to add any offsets, so you might not want it to be perfectly on that line, perhaps you want to leave some space because you want to put a skin on the outside or some sort of cladding or sheet metal, then you can always add an offset using the offset A and offset B, and that's going to offset inwards and sort of upwards. Okay, you can either use the offsets here or you can use the offset arrows. You can just drag them in or out. Okay. And just to show you, if I drag that in, you can see that all of those should move in. All right. So now I'm happy with what I've created there. I'm just going to click OK. The naming dialog comes up again. I can click OK. And there we've created our basic frame. Now, as you can see, we have frame members that are sort of sticking through other frame members, and there's some interferences everywhere. So what we can now do is we can use these additional tools that are provided to us in the frame generator over here that will allow us to go and change these. I can also see that these are sitting on the outside, and perhaps in this case I actually want these to sit on the center of those lines, especially this vertical over here. I'd more than likely want that to sit in the center. So that's not an issue. If you ever want to go back and alter the position of those sections, you just use the change option here, the change tool. Click on the steel section that you want to alter, and we can just move the position. So I'm going to use the center position over there, and that's now moved it into the center of that line. I can change both of them at the same time there. Apply. And the same with this one here. Just move it into the center there. So really easy to go back and alter these. And that all looks right. And I'll apply it there. Okay. So that's all nicely aligned now. Now I can start fixing up some of these sections. So let's say that you want to miter some of your sections together. We've got a miter tool over here, which works really well and really easily. We don't have to worry about creating sketches. We don't have to worry about doing extrusions and then having to try and maintain those extrusions. The frame member tool makes it a lot easier for you. So with our miter tool selected, it's a really basic tool that you can see over here. We can choose offset directions over here for our gap that we want to add. So very often we want to add a weld gap, and perhaps we want a 1 millimeter, or let's do it, say a 2 millimeter weld gap between those two sections. We can also choose how we have the mitered cut. We can do a full miter cut, or we can do a bisect miter cut, but we'll just go for the full miter cut. And mitering is as simple as just clicking on the frame members that you want to miter. You can see that it's already putting the miter in. You can even do a three-way miter if you wanted to do a three-way miter, and you can see how quickly it does that miter. In this case, I'll only do a two-way miter, and I can choose all the frame members that I want to miter. There we are. Click OK. And there, all my top sections are mitered. Now I can see that this vertical pillar over here is still interfering, and I don't want to do a miter. So how do we get around that? Well, we can go and do something like a trim. So we've got the trim tool here, and this allows us to trim or extend our section or sections. So you can see it's asking for a tool, and what it means by that is basically where am I cutting those sections to. So you'll see it asks to select the face. I'm going to select the underside of any one of those top frame members. I want to cut up to that face over there. And then I just select the frame members. So I want to basically select that one there, that one there, that one over there, and that one over there. But I also want to cut these up to that face, because you can see those are all interfering as well. So again, I can just choose those, and we can even do a window select for all of those. Again, we can choose our gap. I'll do 1 millimeter on the top and maybe 1 millimeter on the bottom. Click OK. And there we are. And you can see how quick it is as well. Now, if you do find that these sketches over here are a little bit difficult to work with, or they get in the way, you can always turn that skeleton off. You'll see how Inventor builds the frame is it brings in that skeleton that we dropped in, and it keeps it as a part, and then it creates sort of a sub-assembly for the frame. And you can see we have all the individual members as their own parts inside of the frame sub-assembly. So I'll just turn that skeleton visibility off. All right. So that is how we can basically trim all of those frame members up to a certain size. Okay. Now we also have the ability to notch. So if we do want to notch some of the things out, we can notch our members out. Now the notching doesn't always work as well as you would expect it to, and that's just because of how these sections are defined, how they've created their notch. The notching tool can be customized, so if you do want to create your own custom notch, you can just go and create your own custom sections and redefine that notch. But just to show you how the notch tool would work, we can go to the notch tool here. We can select the frame members that we want to notch. Let's say I want to notch this frame member here and this frame member over there. And then we select what we want to notch them to. So just click on select the member. I can choose that vertical over there. We can add in a gap again. I'll do 1 millimeter. Click OK. And we now have a notched profile. I'll just turn the visibility of that off so you can see. So you can see it is notching around there. Again, it's not giving us the kind of notch that we might expect, but this can be customized by altering the actual section in the content center. So if you want to create a notch that's just a straight rectangular cut, so it notches correctly, you can set all of that up. Okay. In fact, in the notch tool, if you do want to know how to do that, there is a little help file here that says how to create a custom profile. Okay. If you set that up correctly, then the notching is really easy and it creates a really nice notch very simply. Okay. For this, just to get around it, I might go and say shorten some of these frame members just so that they don't stick through. Or again, I can just trim or extend. If you don't want to use the trim or extend, we've also got a corner joint tool. And what's nice about the corner joint tool is that it will trim one frame member and extend another frame member to give you a nice corner joint. And you can see we have a yellow section and a blue section. So the blue section will be trimmed to the inner face of the yellow section, and the yellow section will be trimmed to the outer face of the blue section to give you that nice overlapping corner joint. Okay, so just to show you how that would work, we can select one of the members. The first member is the yellow member. So this is the one that will be trimmed to the end of the blue one. So in this case, it will trim the yellow one to the bottom of these members here. And then I can just go and select that one over there, for instance. And I want to apply a 1 millimeter gap over there. Hit apply. Oh, I had a notch on there. Okay, so what's happened there is it's complaining because I had an end treatment on already. I already had a notch on. So if you do want to remove any of those end treatments, like the notch that we see over there, we can go and very quickly remove any end treatments that we want. It's contained under the frame drop down over here. Go in and use the remove end treatments tool, and we can select the frame members that we want to remove the end treatments from. Click OK, and it will delete whatever you've applied to it, whether it's a notch or a trim or a corner joint or a miter, it will take all of those off. So we go back to the original length that we had, and we can then go and apply a corner joint. Okay, so that should trim everything nicely. All right, now in this case, this one is a little bit too long, so I can either just trim it up to that face and that face there, or I can sort of decrease the length. It's up to you what you want to do. I'll just use the trim. I'll go to that face there, select that member, and then just do it again. All right, really nice and easy. Okay, so let me just quickly fix some of these up. Okay. Oh, still missed one member there, but that's okay. If you ever do want to double check if you have missed any members or if you have any interferences or clashes, you can always check that under the Inspect tab. So I can go to Analyze Interference. And to define the set, I can just click on this as set 1 and click OK. And it will then show you any interferences that you have. Okay, so it's very easy to miss certain sections. I can see there that I have 2 interferences still, the rest all look okay. So I can always go back and fix those up. So it's that member there and that member there. And I'll just double check once again. Perfect. No interferences, I'm happy with that. And of course I'm going to save that. Okay, so now you have all of your individual frame members. Of course, you can go and detail these members individually if you want to. It is a subassembly, so I just need to double click on the subassembly to get to the individual members, but these can be opened individually, and you can go and detail all of these parts as you need to. Okay. If I need to add some iProperties, I can go and add in iProperties. You can see the part number, description, stock number, anything that you want to add in, you can add those in. So it will still behave like a normal part would. So you can create all of your drawings from it. And you can see that we haven't had to apply any constraints of any kind to this assembly. If I try and pull a member out, they don't move. They are all fully constrained to each other. And if you find that you need to alter this frame in any way, then we can go back to the skeleton and we can make changes here. So let's say I want to alter some of these sizes here. Let's say I want that to now be 2 meters. I'll make that 1,000. So my sketches were all properly constrained to each other. That's why they update correctly. And let's say I want to increase the length here. So 3,000, I'll make it 5,000 now. Just save the updates that I made to the sketch. Come back into the assembly and I'll just hit the update button at the top. That will run through. And there we are. It's updated everything. You can see it keeps all the miters that I've created. It keeps any notches or any trims that I've done. So you can see now, because of that angle, I no longer needed to trim to that face, but that trim is still there in case I need it. And you can see we don't have any issues with constraints failing. If we want to alter anything, we don't have any issues with that. Okay, if I just decrease this again, let's say I set that to 2,000 now. So much smaller frame. Update it once again. And there we are. It's doing that to trim. So that trim to face is still there. Trim to member. And look at all those gaps. Now, if you've ever tried to work with frames before without the frame generator, you probably know that's quite tricky to get those sketches right there, and then you have to try and get the angles right. And as soon as you change the length, then suddenly all of your cutouts are all wrong, and you basically have to then reconstrain the entire frame together, and it can be an absolute nightmare. I've tried working with frames without the frame generator, and it was really, really difficult to actually get, especially these cross members over here, these diagonals, to get them to line up correctly was an absolute nightmare. And as soon as you made one small change, then the entire assembly was thrown out, and you had to go back in and edit all the parts and try and reconstrain them. And it ended up taking more time just to try and reconstrain everything than it would have taken for me to just redraw the thing from scratch. So frame generator, definitely a really useful tool. Now, we can also include end caps. So I haven't got anything that needs end caps here, but I can always go and open these miters up at the top. Again, I can just remove the end treatments. So I'll just remove those end treatments over there. Oh, not that one. That one over there. Okay. And I can just maybe set these to some corner joints. Oh, oh, corner joint. Okay. Now, if I want to apply end caps, let's say to these open ends over here, we simply just use the Insert End Cap tool over here. We click on the face that we want to apply the end cap to, and you can see it automatically generates an end cap for us. Now we have two positions for the end cap. We can either have the end cap on the outside, or we can have the end cap on the inside. And we can also choose from 3 different types of end cap. So we can just do a sharp corners end cap, which will just be a straight cut plate. We can do a filleted corners one, where we can define the fillet. And we can also do a chamfered corner, where we can define the chamfer. Okay, and again, each of those can be placed on the inside or the outside. Once you've done that, you can set the thickness for that end cap. So if you want it to be, say, 5 thick, you can set it to 5. I'll just do a 2mm end cap there. And then we can choose the offset size. So we can either choose an offset profile, or we can do a ratio. So you can do a ratio of the original size. But I'll just use the offset profile, and we can decide on the offset size. So if I want it to be offset by 2mm, I can set it to 2, and that will increase the offset. So depending on how much gap you need for welding, for instance, you can define that with the offset. If you don't want any offset, you can just set it to 0, and it will just make it size for size. And again, we can choose our material as well. Now, it doesn't only apply the end cap to one area. You can go and apply that end cap to multiple members. Click OK. That creates one part, so it will be the same end cap on all 4 areas. And then we have our end cap. We haven't had to draw anything, we haven't had to create anything, we just simply used the end cap tool. Alright. So as you can see, really easy to generate a frame in Inventor using the frame generator tool. Now, if you decide that, let's say these frame members here are too large, maybe you don't need that particular size of frame member over there, then you can very easily change it by using the change tool once again. So this doesn't only change orientation, but it allows you to actually change out the members as well. So maybe these diagonals don't need to be 40 by 40, so I'm just going to click on all of them. And if I want to change the member, I can come back through the categories, standards, and families, and choose whatever category I want. If I want to change it to, say, angles, I can. Just keep in mind that some of the end treatments that you've applied will only be sort of usable on a rectangular or square box section. If you put in an angle, you might find that it doesn't trim or miter correctly, and you might have to redo some of those end treatments. Okay. In most cases, it should be okay. But if you change only the size, then it shouldn't have any issue at all. So if I just change the size, let's say I change it from 40 by 40 to 25 by 25 by 2, click OK. Okay, it's going to replace it. So it's going to have to create a new part file. So this part will still exist on your system, but it's going to generate a new part file for you. Okay, so you're not going to lose the old part. Just click yes. Again, we have the naming dialog coming up. Click OK. And that should swap that out with no issues. Okay, we should still have all the correct offsets we're looking for. Yep, And there's all the correct offsets, but we now have a much smaller section. Okay, we can try swapping it out for an angle, but as I say, that will more than likely result in a failure. Let's have a look. So it will still swap it out, it's just that the angle might not trim correctly. Let's go for 30 by 30 by 3. Okay, so in this case, it has actually trimmed it correctly. I don't think it gave us any errors, but we see that it's not facing the right way around. Okay, but we can again get around that by maybe changing one at a time and just making sure that we orientate it correctly. So I can just switch it over to angle and then just do one at a time, rotate it the right way around. Just do a 180 rotation here. Apply that. Let's go and see why that has changed. Do it to that top corner. Okay, so that's putting that in correctly now. And it's still maintaining those cuts. Okay, obviously we have interference there, so we'd need to apply an additional end treatment. Okay, I'm just going to undo that. I'm just going to stick with the square sections, a square tube. Now, you'll notice that it's creating a new part number for each of these members. But in many cases, you might want to just reuse certain part numbers, especially like, say, all these uprights. They might need to be the same part number, especially if I'm not going to be putting any holes in or any cutouts. If it's just going to be a basic frame like this, then we can go and use the reuse option over here. And what this will allow us to do is to select a frame member that we want to reuse. So let's say this one over here. And then I can place that frame member onto the existing lines. Now I've turned off my sketch. So I need to turn that back on first. So let's go to the sketch, turn that back on, and I can go to reuse that section there, and I can drop it in on these lines over here. Okay, now we'd want to do this before we've created all of the additional frame members. Okay, that's going to place it in a strange direction. It's fine, let's just drop those in. And let me go and delete some of these existing ones that are in here. So if you want to delete any frame members that are existing, we just double click on the frame to activate it. Click on the frame members that you want to delete, or the frame member, right click, and you'll see an option that says delete with frame generator. So we click on delete with frame generator, and that's how you remove a section out of the frames. Okay, so let me just delete with frame generator. We can't just do a normal delete. All right. Just return, and I'll just fix those last two up. Rotate that by 180. Okay, and there we are. That's basically how our frame generator works. So if you haven't been using frame generator before, it might be worthwhile to have a look into it. You can see that it definitely speeds up the creation of frames, and it also makes sure that everything is maintained really well and everything is nice and robust. All right. So let me open up to questions. So thank you everyone for attending. If you have any questions, then please feel free to type them in, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If you don't have any questions, thank you very much for attending. I hope that you have a good day further. And again, if you do want to watch this webinar again, it should be loaded onto the Greco website in about 2 weeks. You have the handout with the link to all of those webinars. So go and check them out if you haven't checked out our webinars before. Again, thank you very much everyone for attending, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.